Good morning, Art 6, and welcome to Unit Number 2, Narrative Art. This video will walk you through the lesson objectives, procedures, and lesson vocabulary so everyone has a clear understanding of the project. So your first slide, your first vocabulary word is narrative art. That's what we're creating. We're creating a narrative artwork, and it is art that tells a story about events and ideas. So to your right, there is an image of a famous artist created this painting named Jacob Lawrence. It's called The Shoemaker. It was made in 1945. The question asked in the speech bubble here is, what's a narrative behind this painting? What story is it telling? And you can always use the title, the date, and the images to infer a meaning. So looking at this question, I believe this is going to be your first question for your daily entrance ticket. So I don't want to completely give away the answer to this, sorry about that. I didn't mean to jump the slide. But looking at all these factors, it's called The Shoemaker. Most likely it's about a shoemaker. I don't want to give you too many more hints than that. And it obviously took place in 1945. And hopefully this background information of Jacob Lawrence on the next slide helps. So here's just a little bio on Jacob Lawrence. Jacob Lawrence was born in New Jersey in 1917. He passed away in the year 2000. He and his mother first moved to Pennsylvania, then to New York's Harlem. And there, the urban life environment greatly influenced how he expressed his feelings as a young African-American man during those times. His work concentrated on African Americans, their struggle, and their history. His paintings do not show naturalistic detail. While always recognizable, people and objects are presented in a flat, often angular, abstract way. The stance and attitude of his figures show their strength and inner feelings. The faces in the paintings often, I don't know why this keeps jumping like that, I'm sorry guys. The faces in the paintings often look mask-like, and Lawrence is concerned with the same. So Lawrence is more focused with the inner feelings and strength of his figures during these times. So hopefully this actually gives you some background on Jacob Lawrence and helps you answer the narrative of the shoemaker. When you guys answer that question for your day one entrance ticket, just do the best you can, just within reason. Everyone's probably a little bit different, but try to figure out the narrative of that work. All right, so next is personal value. Personal value is something that's important to us. So whether you really value laughter in your life, kindness, athleticism, conservation, protecting the environment and nature, or personal strength, those are all personal values. We also have faith, patriotism, humor, and over here, if I can move my frame, is family. All these are personal values, and you're welcome to create an artwork about that. You can either tell a story, an actual story, or you can just express a personal value for this project. So I just wanted to demonstrate some different options to help you brainstorm. So then you want to think what is important to you. So as you're doing the brainstorming process, think what's important to you. So whether you want to express a personal value, you want to express, a favorite memory that you had of, why does this keep jumping? Guys, I'm sorry, the slides keep jumping. I'm not quite sure why. But anyway, just to think about what's important to you, your values, certain stories and events that happen in your life, and what you want to express in your art. Try that again. There we go. Illustration is a visual depiction of an idea. So here you have the artist creating different illustrations to express different ideas. So the question is, how can illustrations depict different ideas? Of course, depending on the illustrations themselves, they differ from person to person. Each illustration will, depict a different event, a different mood, a different action. So depending on how you illustrate it will, of course, express the intended idea that you are trying to present. Subject is any person, object, or scene displayed in an art. Here I have two very easy images to recognize the main subject in. So here's Vincent van Gogh, the famous artist. He's the main subject. He's really the only subject. And then here you have the Mona Lisa, who of course is also the main subject. But there's other subjects as well. For the Mona Lisa, there's the trees and the entire landscape, but she is the main subject, and so is Vincent van Gogh. So this is a really important question to think about as we move forward. We want to think about how the subjects in artwork can help the narrative of the artist. So to help answer this question, the subjects, they represent the people, the time, the place, the the subjects can help show the actual emotion. They really help to kind of create that story. So this image here, again, my slide jumped and I apologize. So this slide here, the little boy with the pumpkin over his face, and I don't know if this is his father or older brother carving the pumpkin. The subjects of the pumpkin, the boy and the father or older brother, obviously represent the story of Halloween and then prepping for Halloween. The subjects basically help tell that story. Without these two figures, without the pumpkins, it would just be a park bench and a truck in the woods. So these subjects really help paint that story. And also here to the right is a Norman Rockwell painting of these two young kids. Look like they're out at a diner. I talked about the time. You can see the timeliness of their clothes. This is obviously in a different era, different time period. It looks like they're on some kind of a date. They're going to go to a dance. All these subjects help tell that story. So what you draw in your artwork is very important. So basically think about your narrative, what you're trying to express, and make sure you choose your subjects accordingly to make sure that story is very clear. Emphasis is visual weight or importance. Both of these artworks down here help to show that emphasis. So here you can have emphasis through repetition. So you have the 5 repeating over and over again. You can have through placement, size. It's very large in the center. You don't want something small in the bottom left-hand corner. There wouldn't be any emphasis to that. And the question is, how can artists make something more important to the viewer? So I discussed placement, size, color, even variety. So here you have, even though this figure is not placed dead center, our eye looks directly to this man with a bug's head because it's different than the rest. This sense of variety. Obviously, this is the important aspect of the message of the artist because it's the one thing that's different from everything else in the artwork. So size, color, placement, variety, all these things can make something more important. Balance is the equal use of the elements of design. So basically, you want your artwork to represent a thoughtfulness throughout the entire composition. You want every image, every subject, every space of your composition to be well thought out and planned so that everything is used equally and everything serves a purpose. This, again, my slide jumped. Both of these show actual symmetry, actual physical balance, but balance goes beyond that. Just basically want to plan your entire artwork accordingly. And in what ways can artists show balance throughout their art? Like I said, you just want to use everything equally, the equal space, equal use of color. You want to spread everything out. Just focus on that word equal. Composition is the arrangement of the visual elements in the artwork, so how you arrange your artwork. So down here is an image that shows, I guess, a composition is not as strong, and then here with the green check shows one that's a little bit stronger because it just helps frame in the bird a little bit more. And then here you have Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night, the famous painting that I hope everyone has seen. And you can see how everything's arranged, how everything interconnects, and everything fills the space. Everything basically ties back in together. It was composed and created with a thoughtful, balanced approach. We talked about balance previously. So how does an artist arrange their art in a way that captures the viewer's attention? Like I said, you mainly want to fill the entire space. You want to make sure that every subject has a purpose, is helping to tell that story as this mural that seems to be telling a story of the sense of community, of the things that go on in that community, or that school specifically that seems to be represented down here. So yeah, you just want to make sure you fill the whole space. Everything's balanced with color, line, space. Just make sure you're thinking of the entire artwork and not just a small section of it. Unity is the elements of design working together. So here you have the elements working together, the repetition of the birds over and over again. It's almost like a theme. Everything's thematic. Everything flows. Everything has a specific purpose. And your question is, why is it important for artwork to have a consistent theme? You want a consistent theme for the viewer because if it's not consistent, the artist is going to get, or the viewer is going to get confused and lost in regards to what narrative you're trying to tell. Oh, and there goes, I guess we're ready for the next slide. Focal point is the subject or space that demands the viewer's attention. So you create this through a level of emphasis like we talked about before. So here you have an artwork with all green apples and the one red apple draws our attention because that's the one thing different than the rest. So that creates the focal point where the artist wants us to look. And similar idea with these chess pieces, the they're all the same chess piece, but the one white piece is different than the rest, so that would represent that change to make the viewer look at that specific piece to create that focal point. And then your question is, how does an artist decide what subject should serve as the focal point? I would choose the subject as basically the most important. So we talked about emphasis. I would use your emphasis to create, sorry about that, use your emphasis to create the focal point so that the viewer looks at the subject you want them to as the main subject. All right, so what will you draw to go over the lesson objectives? You want to reflect on your own personal experiences, events, memories, and values that could be illustrated in a narrative artwork. You're going to plan a narrative illustration about an experience, event, memory, or value. So we talked about doesn't just have to be a personal value from the beginning. It can be a story, it can be an experience, an event. And lastly, you'll create a narrative illustration in color that visually communicates using imagery, backgrounds, and details. So you're not just drawing one object of something. You want to have a cohesive, thoughtful, well-balanced composition that with the subjects, the background, the color, everything was thought out. And you guys are using the color pencil for this project, so please make sure you're using color pencils for this. Oh, and that's the last slide. So I hope this video helped. If you have any questions, please message me. And make sure you check back with the daily objectives so that you complete the assignments for today. All right, guys, I'll see you in class.